Welcome to another edition of DHN. I'm your host, as always, Wade Teemer. I want to thank you for coming back to the channel. Hope your weekend was fantastic. I had a lot of fun this weekend. Got to spend some time with some friends. Even got to get involved with a video project that I can't wait to share with you guys. But our focus in this edition is the DePIN sector. It's been hot for a number of months, guys. And I know a couple months back, everyone was talking about it. Reports were dropping. I didn't want to hop into the stream then because I like to let ideas manifest. And now that we have at least 12 months under the belt, and you know, if you've done the research, it's been about 2 years since this DePIN idea has been forming. I think it's time that we can really dive into it because now we have a substantial amount of data. Now we're going to use this DePIN first half of 2024 snapshot provided to us by Flipside. We are talking about Solana DePIN projects because they have all of the players that we're familiar with. Mainly, it's our best way to keep our eyes on the Render network. And you guys know that's one of my favorite assets, been covering it for quite some time. But before we dive into the numbers, we need a definition on what DePIN actually is. Technopedia is going to explain this to us. So, decentralized physical infrastructure networks. That's what DePIN stand for. They are blockchain protocols that build, maintain, and operate physical hardware infrastructure in an open and decentralized manner. So one of the other assets that wasn't mentioned in the report, but I'm going to bring up the information that I have on it to include in this conversation, is IOTX. Now, the reason I bring them up is because when we're talking physical hardware, IOTX has a device called the Pebble, among many devices, but they have the Pebble device. And what it does is you attach it to a vehicle or a place in your home that can collect data for you. The infrastructure network, the digital side that is connected to that hardware that's processing that data, that would be an example of DePIN. So IOTX or Solana or Render would be the supporting network for the physical hardware that connects you to the digital infrastructure. So this DePIN idea, it is very fascinating, guys. Here's a list too of DePIN assets courtesy of Masari.io. Very reputable source for crypto data, guys. Highly advise you to check them out. Well, you can see here at the top of the list, Render, Filecoin. The graph is a very interesting asset when we're talking about data in the realm of DePIN. So keep your eye on that. BitTensors, I believe they're running through Solana. They have some relationship with Solana. I'd have to double check that. If you guys know, let me know down in the comments. But that's fairly new asset to me. They're rallying though in the last 7 days. But Arweave up there with the file storage, the centralized storage game. Theta Network. Now they have a very interesting DePIN positioning. They're obviously going to approach it from the entertainment side. I haven't read into it, but in the last 24 hours, they're up 5%. So something's happening. Must be good. Akash Network, another newer asset, but I've been hearing a lot of murmurs about. Very popular DePIN in the DePIN realm. And you can see here IOTA, IOTX. Listen, I'm going to put together an entire piece explaining the power of both of those assets combined. All right. Depending on your geographic location, one or the other may be more appealing to you. I'll just put it that way. Some other names on this list here, Anchor, Coin, they've been around for a number of years. Anchor, they, as far as their DePIN, it would definitely fall under just solely infrastructure to support any hardware that would come on the network. So you can look at that that way. Helium Mobile. Now they talk about this token in the report, and it was honestly my first time seeing it. It is tied to the Helium Mobile network that is running on Solana. And you can see the price of this thing, guys. And if we're early to something like this, we might want to keep our eyes on that. I'm going to find out where this Helium Mobile can be retrieved, and I'm going to let you guys know. And then XYO, I have a personal experience with this token because they have an app that you can use where you can generate geospatial data or mapping data similar to Hivemapper, and you get rewarded in XYO. Now, something that I learned through that experience is that obviously there's a lot of sale pressure on assets that provide that type of reward mechanism. But when you're offering to exchange the XYO for bigger assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or in their case, 55-inch televisions, then, hey, you can expect a lot of people to be offloading that token as soon as they can. So finding a way to fix that, which actually is addressed in Hivemapper's section of the report, is going to be very beneficial. So let's get into this report, guys, because it's very short. I'm going to run through it very quickly. I took the notes on what I wanted to share with you guys, but 33 million frames rendered to date. This is mind-blowing, ladies and gentlemen. I have been reading up on interviews of people who have used render, and the story is always the same. What used to take me 8 days, 12 days, 14 days, I can do in 4 days, 6 days, a week now, thanks to the extra power that they get from the render network. And then in addition to that, the Solana migration that took place not too long ago. The numbers post-migration are very nice, ladies and gentlemen. The number of node operators has remained relatively flat since the migration. However, overall, there has been a 66.3% increase in active node operators since render migrated to Solana. So not only is that showing that render as a product is attractive in itself, but with the added benefit of being on Solana, making the connection faster, yeah, I can understand why render's price has not stopped moving since the start of the year. Now, on top of that, they also mention how the number of node operators rewards are up an average of 34.3% as well since the migration to Solana. So that's adding to the incentive, obviously, which is going to be more attractive for further development. Now, we also reported on their burn mint equilibrium that came into place late last year, and they have an update on that for us. Now, if you don't know, that burn mint equilibrium was put in place to, one, turn render into a deflationary asset, and two, stabilize the supply and demand for the render token against the demand for rendering jobs on the network. That way, we don't get crazy price fluctuations on our side, and there's not a lot of congestion on the render network side. But they note that since exploding in early January, the pace of render burns has gradually decreased. So that would indicate to us that the network is leveling out. That's a good sign to me. This may be due in large part to render's new burn and mint equilibrium, which has created a more stable environment for render burns by balancing the supply and demand dynamics more effectively. The decrease in render burns may also be partially attributed to growing competition. While render established a strong early foothold within the decentralized compute space, the sector continues to attract more new players than other DePIN sectors. Now, this obviously made me want to fish around, see what has been going on with Solana in recent months. With render in recent months. Where have the headlines been, right? So outside of being mentioned in front of hundreds of thousands of people at Apple's keynote a few weeks ago, they are also working with a pretty big name in open source graphics. That's the words I'm going to use to describe this company, but Blender. Blender is a company that has been around for a number of years. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with your open source, your free to use softwares, but when it comes to that medium, Blender does it for what Audacity does for recording audio. Blender does for creating 3D graphics, rendering, stuff like that. Chances are you've seen an NFT that may or may not have been created with Blender. But they're coming together with the Render Network Foundation. This was kicked off April 19th of last month, and it is currently in the proposal phase. It's still in draft status. But the summary of things, what they want to do, allow users of Blender to access the Render Network. They say that this proposal is to integrate Blender cycles with the Render Network. This initiative will support the growing community of over 2 million Blender users worldwide by providing them with seamless access to the powerful and scalable rendering resources offered by the Render Network. So you have the Render Network's proprietary technology being incorporated in a free-to-use software that's already being used by 2 million people worldwide. Now, this announcement was actually at a press conference. And later this week, when we get into our emerging technologies, we're going to talk about Render. And I'm going to share with you who else has joined up with the Render network. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys know I'm a sports fan. And it now makes sense to me why they've gone heavy into graphics in a lot of the sports that I watch. I'll just put it that way. But let's jump back over to the report, guys. Let's keep it rolling here. Decentralized connectivity featured asset is the Helium network. Now, the majority of their section of the report centers around their increase in Helium mobile activity. On top of the token burns that is vastly outweighing their IoT side, daily Helium mobile subscribers peaked in January of this year and have remained above 2023 levels. They say Helium mobile subscriber count reached new highs in January and have since maintained those levels. The surge was largely driven by Helium mobile's $20 a month unlimited phone plan, which has attracted nearly 90,000 subscribers in less than a year. I'm not surprised. I am totally not surprised at all, because it's $20 a month and you're getting access to T-Mobile towers here, folks. T-Mobile towers. They continue to say many subscribers leverage mobile tokens to pay for their cell phone bills, and the mobile token is also used to reward Helium mobile subscribers who opt in to help map the network. The combination of cost savings and the potential to earn mobile tokens throughout the network, through network participation, has sustained high subscriber numbers well after its 2024 peak. So if we go over back to this Helium mobile token, so we can look at this a lot like the XYO situation, in a sense that if you want to try to hold this token, keep in mind that it'll take longer for it to really reach any peak price levels, because the whole part of the incentive model is to get rid of it in order to pay your phone bill. It's an option that a lot of people are taking, and if you want to invest in that asset, it's something you want to keep an eye out for. However, on the other side, you have to look at it like this. If you want to hold for the adoption curve, there's going to reach a point where that Helium mobile token has to be at least a penny, maybe two, because of the amount of people on the mobile network. Same goes for XYO. Same would go for Hivemapper. And when we get into Hivemapper, as a matter of fact, let's jump into that one next. They explain that a bit more fully. So Hivemapper would fall under your decentralized data and sensory networks. And the highlight that they give us here, well, first let's give a definition, if you will, for Hivemapper. Hivemapper is a decentralized global mapping network that leverages a fleet of dash cam equipped vehicles to create and maintain a real-time map that rivals traditional services like Google Street View. By incentivizing contributors with Honey tokens for mapping and data verification, the project has managed to map over 50 million kilometers, spanning more than 90 countries, ladies and gentlemen. And I had to look into this here. This is their map, folks. And you can see total kilometers mapped, 223 million in 1,500 regions across the world. And they're also getting into AI, which, in looking into this information, I've noticed that DePIN essentially encompasses AI, IoT, machine learning. All of those different ideas are falling under the DePIN way of thinking. That's very interesting. But this is the data, folks. This is where, even in remote parts of the world, people are being exposed to technology. And we have a couple more of these maps we're going to show you. But let's get back over into Hivemapper and let's talk about some of the highlights. Particularly, nearly a third of Honey owners are contributors as opposed to just token holders. Now, I think this reflected what happens when your reward system is more in favor of holding on to that token as opposed to getting rid of the token. Approximately 1/3 of Honey token owners actively contribute to the network rather than merely holding a token. This high level of participation is driven by Hivemapper's incentive model where contributors can earn honey tokens by engaging in activities such as mapping, QA, and training the map AI. The ability to earn rewards through active participation encourages more users to contribute, fostering a vibrant and engaged community of contributors. So if we go back to that list here, you'll notice that the honey token for Hivemapper has already hit 7 cents. So that's an example of an effective incentive model that as more people come onto the network, it's going to drive up the value of that token merely based on the network effect. That's another element to DePIN that you got to keep your eyes open for. Now, a couple of updates here I do want to share with you. Let's start here with Hivemapper's hardware. In the report, they mentioned this B device, which is going to be, as they say, the ultimate mapping miner, effortlessly updating the world's freshest map. And it's also a premium dash cam that'll keep you safe and secure while you drive. So what it's going to be used for is another piece of hardware that will not only provide you some security features, but it will be contributing to the Hivemapper network as well. Kind of reminds me a bit of Constellation's Door device and that mining situation. But with that, you can also pull in Constellation into this DePIN discussion. Those are the examples when we're talking about DePIN. What's the network? What's the hardware? What are you connecting in between the two, right? So look out for this. This should be very interesting, guys. Again, the assets, the digital assets that are able to produce hardware will have the advantage, folks. I don't see no other way in this happening. Helium is definitely one of those assets. Telefonica and Nova Labs launched Helium mobile hotspots in Mexico in January of this year, folks. I completely missed this one, but the short of it is Telefonica and Nova Labs have built a solution based on the open Wi-Fi standard developed by Telecom Infra Project, TIP. The solution enables select Movistar customers in Mexico to access the Helium mobile network using their SIM cards for authentication. Helium mobile hotspots are connected to a proprietary management system developed by Telefonica, which controls its customers' automatic access to the Helium network for mobile data sessions. So this is and every time I read up on Helium, I love seeing this because this is another example of a traditional company fully incorporating blockchain technology into a product. This is going to revolutionize the game, folks. Now, let's get into an asset that wasn't mentioned. The last one they did talk about, and I don't want to disrespect, but it's an early stage project. They're in the decentralized storage category. It's called Shadow Drive. Like I said earlier in the video when we were looking at the DePIN list, decentralized storage, that's a tough industry to get into, tough business. And they acknowledge it here when they say that while Solana's decentralized storage ecosystem is still in the early stages, the growing maturation and adoption of decentralized solutions on other chains like Filecoin and Arrowweave underscore potential for this space. So they're optimistic. I am too. Once more information comes out, we may keep our eyes on you. But we're going to switch our attention here to the asset that I feel should have been incorporated into that report. But upon doing the further digging, I understand why, because the position is different. So back in 2023, IOTX WebStream integrated Solana. This was to accelerate, as they say, DePIN adoption. But what I liked about this arrangement was how it benefited both networks. Now, the launch of WebStream, the verifiable off-chain compute infrastructure established by IOTX as a DePIN leader, and has unlocked brand new design spaces only made possible with real-world data. To fully align with this vision, it's essential to establish broad interoperability across chains, layers, and ecosystems. The integration with Solana will allow developers to connect their dApps to real-world data and generate corresponding on-chain events. From fitness applications to green energy to wireless 5G, the use cases are endless. Moreover, this integration allows DePIN projects on Solana like Render, Helium, Hivemapper, and more to use DePIN Scan, the map explorer, as a service for real-time, deep, and transparent insights for every project into the entire DePIN landscape. So this is going to put all of the DePIN data in one place, guys. And when I found this, I was mind blown. Because when you take a look at the DePIN landscape globally, there's a whole lot of concentration here in the United States. As much as the media here tries to tell us that it ain't happening, it seems to be happening. Now, this isn't just DePIN projects on IOTX. This is the entire DePIN landscape as it stands right now. So I find this to be very fascinating, guys. And I did take this opportunity to analyze what's been going on with IOTX. Observing them over the last few years, I watched a narrative change for sure. Because at first, like I said, it was about Internet of Things. It was about machine learning. But now they have really leaned into the DePIN narrative. And I just think it is the perfect umbrella to encompass everything that they do. Now, when you take a look at their ecosystem, they have about 52 total DePIN projects that they are supporting. It's a very interesting list. Networks 3 is actually in the AI realm. They have a lot of devices in the field already. But the one that caught my attention was this Wayru network here. Because earlier in the week, about a week ago, they announced a new token that was coming to the network. But it was in this article that I found out this bit of information here, that Wayru is the world's first DePIN project to partner with the United Nations. It's part of a development program to bring more connected devices to Latin America. Now, I had to go check their website to confirm that, guys. You can see the future of internet access. They're promoting their token there. And they have a couple of hardware devices. Well, this seems to be an iOS app, but this is an operating system that is compatible with various accent point brands. Wayru OS enables any Wi-Fi enabled device to become a source of cryptocurrency generation hardware. But look at the partners and investors: IOTX, Algorand, Peak. They just linked up with MasterCard, I believe. But you can also see it here: United Nations and the UNHCR. Very intriguing, folks. Very intriguing. But to wrap this up, guys, I think we got a pretty good understanding of what the DePIN landscape is slowly becoming. Watching this conversation, it feels like real world assets. It feels like the metaverse all over again, guys. These are the narratives, the trends that we are fortunate enough to witness unfold. Now we're going to wrap it up here, going over to DePIN Scan, because I want to show you this metric here. They list all the DePIN projects that are feeding data to this site. 19 in total, but when you toggle this button here, it brings you up the DePIN projects with hardware, with devices. And you can see the Pebble listed for IOTX. But Network 3, that's that AI DePIN project, 141,000 devices. That's saying something. Let's look over and see how many devices on Solana. 27 DePIN projects in total. 4 have devices. That would explain a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Once these other 23 or so DePIN projects, if they change their mind or if they get into building out a hardware device, I see a phone here. That's a mobile. They're going to need some type of hardware. Then you'll start seeing the ecosystem grow when you see the number of hardware devices connected to these DePINs grow as well. Now, just because I wanted to look at Polygon and Ethereum, Polygon actually has about 19 DePIN projects. 6 of them have hardware out. I hear Streamer's pretty interesting because they're tied in similar to what Theta is doing with streaming, the entertainment side, gaming, stuff like that. When it comes to Ethereum, they're sitting on about 41 DePIN projects, but everything's in ERC20. And if your DePIN project is an ERC20, it's going to be, it owes its allegiance to Ethereum, essentially. But when it comes to DePINs with devices, with hardware, there are only 5. So it's at the market, the DePIN market is in a very interesting position, guys. But I definitely believe it's one to watch because it's going to open up new ways for people to make money, which in and of itself, when it comes to how that may impact the economy in 10 to 15 years, that's a discussion for a different day, folks. But as far as this discussion, that's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to pick up any of these assets, they're actually all on Uphold. That's the exchange I use. The link to that will be in the description. They are a channel partner, so yes, I do get compensated if you decide to use the link provided to you in this video. Always remember, crypto assets, we still in a volatile, very volatile age, so never risk more than what you're willing to lose. I'll be the first to tell you that. Now, if you do decide to take that risk, my advice, get it off an exchange and put it on a hardware wallet device. The hardware wallet device in my hand right now is the SafePal S1. They've been a channel partner for years as well. So I thank you in advance if you decide to use the links in the description to purchase one of their products. With that, it's time for the best part. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.